Can everyone hear me? Good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you very much. Hello again. My name is Anja Wang. Just Anja. You don't need to know my last name. I'm here to tell you a story, not so much about my organization, though obviously I'm proud of it, but about my country and about the way we organize vet education in Denmark and why the companies, so the members of my organization and lots of other companies, why they are so important in the vet system. I think it's necessary to start by stressing to you that obviously I'm not here to convince you to turn your system into the Danish system, because no, you have to find your own way. But when I'm here hoping that you can find some inspiration, that it gives you food for thought, that there are reflections in this that hopefully you can use and that can help you forward towards improvements in the vet education. Because vet education is crucial. It's crucial in Denmark, and I'm sure that it's crucial in Montenegro, it's crucial within the EU, it's crucial all over the world. And it becomes increasingly important that we have well-functioning vet systems, that we have well-skilled people for the labor market and in the companies. So the importance of vet, and that means also the importance of your work for those of you who are in the vet system, and the importance for those of you who come from companies is really, really high. As you can see, my presentation, which originally is in English, has been translated. So from time to time I might be just looking at Bodil, where I have my original presentation in English if I just need a little clue for what it is. Just for starters, this is actually the headquarters of Confederation of Danish Industry at the main square in Copenhagen, a very beautiful building that we are very proud of. So, what I'm going to go through in this, and I know 1 hour sounds like a very long time, I'll do my best to be entertaining to the best that I can. Otherwise, you'll have to interrupt me, or you'll have to tell me to, come on, speed it up or whatever. I'll do my best. So, now I have to look down here to just see what it says in English. So, first of all, I'm going to give you a small introduction to the Confederation of Danish Industry. Not a long one, but you should know just a little bit about where I come from. Secondly, the Danish education system. I'm not going to go into depth with it, not all the details, but if you are to be able to understand the setting of what I'm talking about, you need to know just a little bit about it. I'll try to be brief and not too boring. Then I am to talk about the role of social partners in vet in Denmark, because that role is very, very big. It's really important, and it's probably different from what you have. So that is what I will tell you about. I'll tell you about that, and you will have to be able to see it in connection with our labor market model. So therefore you will also get a little bit of history about the Danish labor market model, because it goes together. I will then go somewhat more into vet. How do we develop vet programs? How do we organize it? How do we govern vet in Denmark? And once we're through that, I will go back to the social partnership, the importance of social partnership, and the importance of having companies also within our system. And then finally, I will try to conclude with some reflections on dual vet as it is in Denmark, and what works, and where do we still have challenges? Because even though we have a century-old system, we still have challenges. And I think that's just part of the world of vet, that there is no perfect solution. We're never at the end of it. We keep on having to develop, to work with it, and to find new solutions, new way to go about it. Because vet follows the labor market. labor market follows the economy. And thanks God, the economy is not standing still. It keeps on evolving. So we have to keep on evolving as well. So, the Confederation of Danish Industry. We're the largest of the member organization we're the largest employers organization and business organization in Denmark. We actually now are more than 20,000. When this was first produced, it was 19,000. We're more than 20,000 member companies in the Confederation of Danish Industry. And this is when we look at it when we look at all the companies who are actually organized or actually member of an employers organization, 65% of them are with the Confederation of Danish Industry. So we are in Denmark also seen as the big brother in the employers' world. We cover very, very many areas. I don't know what it's like in your country, but when in Denmark we talk about industry, there's a tendency that we talk about, the heavy industry, manufacturing industry, etc. We have chosen to broaden the concept of industry. So yes, we do have manufacturing industry, and that's where we came from, the production industry. But we have many other sectors in our association by now. We have a big trade part, we have the construction part, we have transportation, we have services, we have the IT sector, and many others. So we cover a very, very broad band of companies, and that means also that we are involved in many, many types of vet education, because we're involved in all the types of education that is actually being used by our members. And now, and I will come to vet, I will promise you that, but I have to start with just a little bit of labor market understanding and labor market model in Denmark. And it's necessary because that will help you to understand afterwards why our system is the way it is. So, an essential part of the Danish labor market model is that most legislation at the labor market is not carried out by the parliament. It's not carried out by the politicians. They're not the one regulating what goes on at the labor market. Yes, some of the things they are, but a lot of it, most of it, is left to the social partners. So it's left to the employers organizations, and the trade unions to agree, to find a compromise, to find out what should be and it's not just wages, it's so much more than wages. It is obviously wages, that's an essential part of the labor market, but it's also the continuing education, it's also health and safety, it's maternity leave, paternity leave, etc. Very many aspects of the labor market in Denmark is actually being regulated by the social partners. And there is a basic contract there that needs to be understood. So our politicians have left that responsibility to the social partners. They've trusted the social partners to be able to do this. But they don't just do that, you can just get this as a gift. No. Of course, there are conditions. The condition is that the social partners are the ones who are able to they're able to live up to the responsibility. That they do find the compromises. That they do together work for the best of Denmark, work for the best of our society, and not just uniquely in their own interest. Of course, they carry in their own interest. We all do that when we negotiate, even when we negotiate with our kids. But we also know that we have to find a compromise. And that's what we have to do between the social partners. And also, another condition is we have the responsibility to regulate the labor market. It is also our responsibility to keep the labor market calm, to see to that we do not have strikes here and there and everywhere, that we have a well-functioning labor market where we are not interrupted by strikes, by conflicts, etc. If there are conflicts, the social partners have to be there locally to deal with it, to find a solution. And we have to work together with that. That's a common responsibility for us. That means if we have some workers in a factory who they're not satisfied with something, they're not allowed to go on strike. If that is something, if what they are not satisfied with is something that's regulated in the social bargaining agreement, so we have found a solution. If they don't like the solution, they're not allowed to go into strike. If they go into strike, we give them a penalty. Their own organization gives them a penalty. Their own trade union tells them to not do it, because they have to respect the social bargaining agreements that we've made, employers and employees. So, we work together, as you can probably hear, and it's quite important that we have that trustful relation between employers and employees and trade unions. So, that's why I wanted to go a bit more into the social bargaining agreements and the importance of social bargaining agreements in our model. Obviously, our legislators also have something to say, as well as has the EU too. But don't underestimate the role of social partners. So, briefly, what characterizes then, and I've already said some of it with the Danish labor market model. We have a very flexible labor market. It's usually we say it's easy to hire and it's easy to fire. And it is. But we also have a welfare system next to it, so we know that they are taken care of there if they are fired, and they're relatively fast onwards at the labor market in a new system, in a new job. And we have a continuing vet system that will help them carry on. We have, as you heard, local negotiations, local agreements in the factories, at the labor market. And we have a lot of trust. Trust between the parties is essential. So that's why if we made an agreement, we stick to it. We need to be able to do that. We need to be able to trust each other. And then we have this very small degree of political interference. So there's a bit of a hands-off part to it. But we also know that we have a responsibility. If we are not able to deal with it ourselves, they are going to interfere. And between the social partners, well, that's incentive enough for us to find the solution together. We don't want the political interference. We believe that we know the labor market better and that we're better in actually finding the right solutions to it. Yeah, this is a bit more about the regulation of the labor market and the various levels we have of it. I'm not going to go very much into it. I think I've said the most essential part about the labor market model. But we do have an upper level, which is the confederations of all employers and of all trade unions. And then we have the next level, which is where DI is, because that's where we're going into the sectors and with the actual contact with the companies, etc. Very important also the local agreements. So now we come to VET. This is our system. You probably have diagrams looking a bit like that for your national system. I'm not going to go through it. We have the preliminary, we have the secondary, primary, secondary, and tertiary education. We have one for full-time. We have the one part of it, the one to the left is the full-time programs. The one to let me see, what's right and left? Yeah, left is the full time, and right is the half-time, the half-time programs. The ones with the red circles, that's what I'm going to talk to you about. And mainly the vocational education and training, the full-time vocational education and training, which in Denmark is dual education. We only have apprenticeship programs. We don't have school-based vet. That doesn't exist in general. So that's why, obviously, the companies are so important. A little bit of history, and I was asked to take this along when I'm talking to you about the model. We can easily take our system back, and we can trace it back to at least 1400, maybe even before. That's when we have the first proof of an apprenticeship, of actually writing about apprenticeship, of actually that we did have something like that. That was when we had the guilds, and they set their first rules about apprenticeship. You've probably had the same. So the master craftsman himself actually educating an apprentice, taking him into his trade, and then leaving on his business to him. That developed, but this is just to tell you that we have a very long tradition of apprenticeship in Denmark, and we've kept to it. We then started having schools, so it wasn't just in-company training, it was more than that. We also needed the schools. So that was companies going together, establishing together, founding the vet schools. And that is still at the foundation of many of the vet schools that we have in Denmark. It's actually those companies who founded it together because they could see that they had the same needs. So the smart way to actually give it to their apprentices, to let them be taught something, that was to found a school. We then started having actually a regulation also of the rights of the apprentices, because obviously they have rights. They are at the labor market. They should have rights as well, and that goes very much along with the whole regulation of our labor market to the extent that we have it. We then had in the 30s that the social partners were actually in the framework law of vet. The social partners were included as having a formal role in vet education in Denmark. And that has just continued ever since. And you will hear more about the role that we play as social partners in the vet system in Denmark. But the main conclusion of this, because we are here talking about industry and education joining forces, the main conclusion of this is that we have very, very long tradition of having employers and companies being involved in vet. And they have this very important role. If I'm to talk to you about the actual system, how we actually do it, and I'm not going to, again, go very much into details because this is a field I've been working with for years and years, and I can probably talk for hours and hours. I will not do that. There are 4 essential parts of the vet systems, and I've tried to do it in a nutshell. So I hope that it's possible for you to understand it. First of all, it's dual. And that means that a maximum of a third of the time of an apprenticeship is actually at school. The rest of it, that's in the company. So the main part of the education is in the company. And the overall responsibility of the training and the education of the apprentices, that rests with the company. Not with the school, but with the company. So they are the ones who are liable for this. And we have vet programs in almost any area. We have it in health, We have it in technology and construction. We have it in the trades and businesses. We have it in transport, just about anything, I believe. So a lot of different programs. The apprentices, well, they're part of the labor market. They're employees. They're not just trainees who are just not really connected. No, they're employees. They're colleagues. They're in the company, they're colleagues. They may not know quite as much as those who have the experience. But that's okay. We all have to learn. We have to start somewhere. So this is a colleague who's part of the work team, goes to lunch together with them, works together with them, does his or her best, sometimes makes mistakes, but that's how it is when you're learning. And here you have the labor market model interfering again, because when you're an employee, you get a wage. And that wage is defined by the social partners in the social bargaining agreements. And it says in the law on that, not how much they should have as their wage, but that they need to have the wages that are stipulated in the social bargaining agreement. To go to a vet, the admission of it, the minimum you need to have is 10 years of primary school in Denmark, and you need to be able to pass the exam in Danish and math. That's not, let's say, it's not the highest demand you can think of. The duration is from 2 years up to 5.5 or even 6 years. And again, 1/3 at school, maximum 2/3 in the company. Also for those who are in it for 5 or 6 years. And there we're talking about the very advanced programs. For instance, one of my favorite too is the flight mechanic. That is a 5.5 years long program. But it is really important that we have very well qualified there. I say that as a frequent traveler. I am so happy that they are well trained. The social partners, they decide a lot on this. You see the organization of our system later on, but we're the ones who decide what should be the learning outcomes. We're the ones setting the curricula. We're the ones going into and saying which exams should be there, how it should look like, what type of exam they should go through. We're the ones who are also looking into the quality, especially the quality at the companies. Because it's not just any company who can just say, oh, I would like to be an apprenticeship company. No, they need to be recognized as such or certified as such. And they are certified by the social partners, not by public authorities. This is a bit of the program, or just to give you an idea of the structure of a program. But I've told you already, about 1/3 at school, 2/3 in the company. The one that you have as the green one, the green part of it, that's the basic course. That's always at school. They start it's about 5 months. Most of them start at the vet school. They have a basic course. They are taught the fundamentals of their trade. And then they need to find a company for an apprenticeship. That's when they then need to make a contract for the apprenticeship and then carry on their education. These are just three examples of that. So, I don't know what it's like in Montenegro, But I could imagine that most of your students are relatively young, that they come from primary school and then they go into the vet school, right? Yeah. It was like that back maybe the 70s or something like that in Denmark. 70s, part of the 80s, but not when we look at it now. In the 19s, we introduced and we really pushed for adult apprenticeship, because in Denmark we had people that were unskilled and working unskilled in the labor market. We needed to upskill them. We needed to give them possibilities to develop in their job, to develop in their profession. And therefore, adult apprenticeship was really pushed forward as a possibility. It was possible before as well, but over the years we've tried to make it as attractive as possible, also for adults to go into vet programs. So we have increased the focus on RPL, so recognition of prior learning. We have higher wages for the adults in our social bargaining agreements. There are also a bit of a subsidy from public authorities for specific trades and functions. So where we really, really need laborers, where we really need the labor force to be upskilled, that's where you can also have a subsidy. And then they're given a bit of reduction of the time at the vocational college when you come in as an adult. And now, I've told you that they're not all young, but would anyone dare to try and say what they believe is the average age of a vet student in Denmark? Can I activate any of you to just try and make a guess? No? You dare not? 35 is a very good try. It is, however, a bit less. But it's not a bad one at all. If you look at this, and I'm sorry I haven't been able to have it updated after 21, but the trend continues. It's actually between 26 and 27. But what you can see is a tendency. First of all, you can see that we have those who are above 25 is actually the largest group. And you can probably also see that we have a tendency that we're fearing. You might recognize the same tendency. We have a decline in the attendance of vet. That is really bad news. So we are fighting to have more, not just very young ones, but also the adults to actually attend VET in Denmark. Now this, 3 different pictures. Apprentices, getting instructions probably. So where do you think they graduate from, if you were to ask them? If you were to go there and interview them, what would they say? Again, anyone dares? No? The company, exactly. And they're so proud of it. They wear their clothes with the company name. When they've been on their first training in the company, you can see it. They are so proud. This is where they belong. This is their identity. I'm proud to be blacksmith, whatever, from this or that company. That is real, and that's what they will say. If you ask them 20 years later, oh, I graduated from XX company. That identity is very important. And that identity also means that these companies, if they do it right, and if they do a good job, they have excellent ambassadors at the labor market afterwards. We're talking about how well functioning it was, what they were taught there, and how much it meant to them to be at this company. That is one of the assets for the companies. Because if you have people in the labor market telling about the quality of their company, it's easier to attract future labor force. And they need that because we have a deficit of skilled labor. We need more. And we need them to be well qualified. So anything counts when you're trying to attract. And this is part of it. Our system, again, I know it looks very complex. I'm not going to go into whatever every department does, etc., etc. I mean, I assume, I'm sure even, that we have about the same relation between Parliament and Ministry. So Parliament decides rule, Ministry helps to implement it, and then the schools are the third level, so to speak, to implement the rules, right? But then we have all these grey boxes, and those are actually the ones that I want to talk to you about. So, we have first the vet colleges. The vet colleges are self-governing entities. They're financed by the public funds, so they're financed by the Ministry and Parliament, etc., by the state, but they're self-governing. So they have governing boards. And those governing boards are the ones who decide on what to use the money for, how to steer. They're responsible for the quality of the education and for should we build a new school, should we not, can we use more money on upskilling the teachers, etc. Those governing boards, up to 2/3 of the places in the governing boards are filled by social partners in parity. So in most schools you have governing boards with 4 employer representatives, 4 trade union representatives, and then you have 1 municipal representative, 1 teacher representative, and 1 student representative. The last one is for the board themselves to decide who they would like. But the point of it being, we have social partner influence very strongly. And again, responsibility is given to the social partners because it is trusted that they will live up to it to the best of the school, to the best of the society. They are supported by local vet committees, also with social partners in parity. On the national level, we have sector skills councils, which are composed by and financed by the social partners as well. I will go into more of what here it says trade committees, but they're also known as sector skills councils. It depends a bit on which wording you would like to use. I will go more into the role of them in regulating the vet system in Denmark. At the top of it, we have our National Vet Council. They meet once a month. Mainly social partners are there, and they have a very important say when we are talking about the vet programs, what should be the contents, or rather the frame of regulating the vet system in Denmark. So, trying to just sum up a bit about what is actually the organizational and the political setup of this. We have a long tradition of having tripartite agreements. So that's where we meet. Social partners meet with the state and make the overall agreements on what should be the evolution, what should be the coming development in this or that field related to the vet education. Very much, as you have already heard, follows the Danish labor market model. So, competence given to social partners, trusting that they will be able to live up to it. And to see to, and in the vet, what we are to see to is that vet must be relevant to the labor market. We are also to see to that there are actually companies who are willing to engage in it. And we take part of the responsibility of making it as attractive as we can, trying to attract young people as well as adults to the vet system. Then we have, and that is something I will definitely not go into, but the way it's financed is a so-called taxometer system. It takes time to explain it, but the very basic philosophy in it is that the money follows the student. So if a school attracts many students, they get more money than if they cannot attract so many. That has its pros and cons, but it's a way of being able to govern and to also make an incentive for vet schools to attract people to their to the programs that they offer. So that was, yeah, I think that one was what I just, the next one? That one I think I just, did I say something that sounded stupid to what it said there because I don't know what it says there? No? Okay. Ah, that was it. Okay. That's who was, it's the small one I hadn't. Just telling you that this guy here, when we're talking about what he should learn and who actually decided it, again, it is the social partners. Next one, there we go. The sector skills councils. That's where we do social partnership in practice. And that's where we have employers and employee representatives sitting together, deciding together for specific programs what they should learn, what the learning outcomes should be, which companies should be certified, what should be the duration of the program, and all of these things that you need in connection to it. They do the quality assurance of the program. Together with ministry, yes, but a large part of it is actually the responsibility of the sector skills councils. So there we have again the same model. If we have an apprentice and a company who disagree or have a conflict, that happens. Just like it happens for anyone else at the labor market, that there is some conflict. They're then asked to go to the sector skills councils for mediation to see if we can somehow solve and help them solve their problem. If we're not able to do that, then they have to go to a specific system where they can then have real conflict resolution and possibly even a penalty paid or some compensation to if they were not allowed to stop the apprenticeship contract, but the company did it nevertheless, then the company can very well be asked to send or to give a compensation to the apprenticeship, the apprentice. Yeah, there are many other, I'm not going to go through this whole, you'll be able to get the slides afterwards, but there are many of these competences that are actually being given to the sector skills councils. I've tried to make an overview of who does what. And this one is in English, so I hope that you will be able to. But you can see here that we have, I mean, obviously there are roles. I've been talking a lot about the social partners, obviously, because that's the different part of it, and that's where I come from. But there are very important roles also for the schools, as well as for the ministry. And we need to cooperate on this. And we do so in very many of these. So the school has the exceptionally important role of actually implementing the programs, of actually helping us with these students being able to reach the learning outcomes that we set. And they do so in connection with the enterprises, with the companies. The skills councils, we're the ones setting the learning outcomes. But we can set as many learning outcomes as we want. But if they don't achieve it, it's not really worth a lot of it. So we depend a lot on the schools, and we depend a lot on a good cooperation between the vet schools and the companies who actually have the apprentices. That is very crucial to have that. And as Skills Council, we do our best to try and bridge that, to encourage that. But it is done at the local level, and the Skills Councils are at the national level. So we're depending on the local VET committees to actually bridge these two. Yes. Now I'll try to sum up a bit about what's actually the success of the Danish vet system. Because, I mean, as you can hear, we're proud of our systems. We can see a lot of advantages in the system as we have it. Well, in general, we have very low youth unemployment. So basically, our vet system is part of that success. It's not the only reason, but it's part of it, because it bridges well to the labor market. So the outcome of vet programs is very well in accordance with the labor market needs. And as sector skills councils and as social partners, we have a huge responsibility in renewing the vet programs all the time. Keeping in touch with the labor market, keeping in touch with the employers. What is needed? What should be renewed? What should be developed further? And we manage, I mean, we're not perfect. And we don't always know what is going to happen at the labor market in the companies 5 years ahead. It's difficult. I mean, we really have to have almost magical abilities sometimes. But we do our best to read the trends and to actually improve our systems on the basis of that and our programs. And for the companies, that's definitely a success. They train their future employees. They get what they want. They get someone who knows their own company, who knows what it's like to work, and who's actually tried it out. They haven't just taught about it theoretically and maybe tried it a little bit in a workshop at a school. I mean, I know that is what is possible at a vet school, but they've actually been out there, they've tried working under pressure, they've tried working with colleagues, cooperating, etc. They have been at the labor market throughout their education. That's important. And for the companies, that means that once they then hire them afterwards, they are ready to go. You can just put them into a labor function. Of course, you might still need to teach them a bit more about this company rather than the one where they were trained. But they're ready to go. They don't have to spend long time to train them for the functions and to train them in practice. Then, as I told you, it really provides for flexibility because we can train young people and we can train adults. And in a society with many changes, technological changes, I mean, think of green transition, digital transition. Now we have generative AI. What's that going to mean to our labor market, to the companies, etc.? We need to upskill. We need to reskill. Maybe it's no longer relevant to have the program that they were taught 20 years ago. Then they can become what we called adult apprentices, or they can go through continuing education. They can be reskilled. That's what we use our vet system for, and that's where it's a success as well. And then the system is relatively easy for us to actually to make changes into it. That agility is worth a lot in a fast evolving society and world. So, and in general, and now I might be talking more to the ministry people here. Having a dual system like this, leaving the responsibility, daring to let go of some competences, but at the same time asking companies to also pay wages, trust them to take care of the apprentices, trust them to actually reach the quality required. It does actually make macroeconomic sense, because in Denmark, companies pay a very large proportion of the costs of vet and of training vet students. So, just to think about that. We also have challenges. I told you that in the beginning. There is no such thing as a perfect system. Neither is ours. So, in some cases, we still have mismatch between the number of students who would like to go to a specific sector and the number of companies who actually offer apprenticeships. Or rather, the number of places that are of extra trained people that are needed at the labor market. You can probably imagine, and I could assume that that could be some of the same here, that you will have a lot of girls who would like to become hairdressers. That is one of the popular trades in Denmark. But there is a limit as to how many hairdressers we need. And that is regulated in Denmark by how many are actually offering an apprenticeship in the hairdressing trade. But that means that we may have students who would have liked to go that way, and where we have to disappoint them and say, you have to find another way. Because if you don't get an apprenticeship contract with a company, you cannot continue in this direction. You need to find another. What's even worse is that in some of our trades, especially within the technological fields, we don't get enough students. So we have companies asking for, sometimes even begging the vet schools, could you please find me an apprentice? Because I need him or her. I have 2 or 3 unfilled spaces. But they're out of students because we do not have enough actually going that way. And it seems that that tendency, also because of demography in Denmark, is unfortunately continuing. So, we have challenges there. We also have, and I know that you're talking about how can we engage companies. We have come very far. We've managed to stick to the old tradition for many companies, and they're proud to be part of it. They're proud of their children, of those that they have trained. They're proud of what they have achieved. But we also have free riders. We also have some companies who are just taking in what the others have done, not really taking upon themselves the responsibility. And there as well, we have made an economic incentive system to make it less attractive for them to not have apprentices. Let's say it like that. So they risk an extra tax if they don't have enough apprentices. But that's something that where we had to go into. We cannot just rely on the goodwill only. You also need to think of the economic incentives in this system as well. We have a general trend of young people choosing high school and then continuing on to higher education. That probably is a tendency that you know here as well. It is known almost all over Europe, if not all over the world. So we are really trying to tell the story of vet, to tell the attractiveness of vet to young people as well as to adults. And we're doing a lot, and that's why we have the adult apprenticeship as an important part of it. We're doing a lot to turn vet into an attractive reskilling opportunity. So all of this just to say that in fighting for attractiveness and for a good image of vet, you're not alone. We are there as well. Maybe at another level, but we have some of the same challenges. Unfortunately, we share them with the rest of Europe, with the rest of the world. But fortunately, there is an increasing knowledge of the importance of this area. So we're joining forces, not just in Denmark or in Montenegro, also within the EU, in UNESCO, in the UN, in OECD. Everybody is talking about and wanting to do good for vet. So let's hope for a better future at that. So, summing it up, and I hope I've not gone too much over time. Okay, it looks okay, I hear. Well, my first point is probably, I don't even need to say it, but it's essential with social partnership in Denmark, in case you haven't noticed from what I've just been telling you. It is a very fundamental part of our vet system. We managed to match the labor market needs pretty well by doing so. We're not perfect. By no means, we're not perfect, but we do our best to actually do it. We, in the sector skills councils, and that's the part of the system I have not gone very much into, but we make analysis. We look at big data for the trade. We talk to companies. We talk to employees. We do our best to follow the trends in the technological development, etc. And we do so together with the schools, because even though the responsibility rests with the sector skills councils, we depend on the knowledge of the schools as well. We depend on the ownership of the schools as well to our programs, and we depend on that cooperation. So that is crucial as well in this. Green transition and digital transition, they're almost buzzwords, but they're still very important. And I'm sure that those are words that, and these are conditions, developments that you are dealing with as well. We are in Denmark, and we are very, very keen on actually on seeing to that our programs are well in pace with the development as well as it can be. But it's difficult because things are going really fast. The finding out exactly what the new technologies are that we need, finding out how can we attract so many more to the skilled trades, especially in the technological field, broadly speaking. That is a big challenge. And the challenge goes along with the STEM. Are you all familiar with the STEM abbreviation? So science, technology, engineering, and math. Again, universal challenge, but we see it very, very concretely in Denmark as well. And a last point that has been a challenge in Denmark for quite some years is that we have seen decreasing investments in vet. And we actually had that at the same time as everybody started talking more and more about the importance of vet. So it was really something that just didn't match. There we have been going into a serious dialogue with government, with politicians. We've been campaigning, we've been lobbying, and we've actually managed now. So over the coming 5 years, we will have significantly increased funds for the vet schools, especially, for them to be able to increase quality, to increase the attractiveness, to have the right equipment, to have and to follow the technological development in terms of the equipment as well, So that is something that we are now going to invest even more into. So we will probably go on saying that there is a need for further investment in VET, but an important step has been taken now. And why do companies then get involved? Can you summarize that? I'm quite often been asked that question. Well, first of all, when you're involved the way we are in Denmark, and when I say we, I'm a company representative. It means influence. It means that we actually get learning outcomes in the VET programs that match the needs that we have in the companies. So it means influence, important influence. We have a very good match, and I've said that before, between what the companies need and what's actually being offered. And that goes for the soft skills as well as for the harder skills, the technological skills. Because companies are not just asking for hard skills, knowledge of how the technology works, etc. They're also asking for soft skills. They're also asking for the ability to cooperate, to be motivated, to be there on time for the work. And they get that. This VET system, training apprentices, etc., is an excellent way for the companies to recruit their core labor force. And they do so. They get some workers, some employees who knows the company and who knows what they're working with. And no matter how good a VET school you are, and I'm sure that you are and you do your best, you are never able to reproduce what it's like to be at a workplace. You're not able to reproduce the way people work, the deadlines, the way you interact. You're not able to, and that's fair enough. But that's what they get when they're at the company. And that is worth a lot to companies. Then when you give influence, and that is maybe not why the companies do it, but this is also a message which is being given to the policymakers. If you want the companies to take upon themselves the responsibility, if you want them to work with you, you need to be able to give them some ownership. You need to be able to also give them a chance to influence what they're working with. If they're just being given a responsibility with no chance of actually influencing, of actually shaping it, it's not quite as fun. And I believe that that fundamental psychology is something that we all know also from our work. If we're just told to do this and you have to do it like that, only like that, nothing but that, it's not as fun as if we're told you need to do this. You need to just, end there. But how you do it, the best way you do it, that's up to you. And if you can reach even better results, you'll just make me even more happy. That's a more fun task to be given. So think about actually pairing up responsibility and influence. They go hand in hand. And the macroeconomic sense for the state, yes, I've given you that as well. I hope that that will be kept in mind by those of you who are from the ministry and from those of you who are actually advising politicians on the future of your systems. And just a brief one on, that is very, very concrete on how do we actually support the members who are involved in this. And I'm not talking about those thousands of our members who have apprentices coming into their company. Here I am talking about those who are representing DI, who are representing employers at the local vet committees, as examinators, because it's also company people who are the examinators at the journeyman's exam, which concludes the vet programs. So what we do our best to keep in touch with them, to help them. They're not really paid. They're not paid to be on the governing board. They're not paid to be on the local vet committees. No, they do that as part of their responsibility for the best of their sector, for the best of their business and that of their colleagues, because they want influence on the conditions for their apprentices, and because they also see that they have a responsibility to the Danish society. And they think it's fun. They think it's worth it. They find it important. But they also have influence. Then obviously, throughout, not just keeping in touch with them, they can always call us. They can always email us. They get emails and letters, newsletters, etc. from us. We invite them for conferences, we invite them for seminars, etc. We do our best to actually support them, to service them in this. And if we can't help them, if we're not the ones to do it, then we do have our secretariats for the sector skills councils, which are also there to help the companies with more specific things in the specific vet programs, etc. These the secretariats of the sector skills councils, I believe I didn't say it before, they are owned and financed by the social partners. So the sector skills councils, they have competences, they have things that they should do, but they are privately financed by the social partners as well. Just coming back to the point about the macroeconomic sense that it makes. And then we also have some funds, we have some further programs within our social bargaining agreements where we can finance further projects within the broader world of VET, of continuing vet, etc., to improve the system, to improve the conditions for the workers at the Danish enterprises. So that was it for me for now. I hope that you managed to get through a whole hour. I know it's a long time. I hope that I've been able to give you a small insight and hopefully some inspiration as well about VET. You're very welcome to ask me questions, probably afterwards, because we need to look at the time, but you're so welcome to come, and I wish all of you the best of luck in your continued work. Thank you very much.